I'm ready.
Cool. Welcome to the Jacob Koutas Show. What's up? You want to give yourself a little introduction?
I am Jean Koutas. I am Jacob's mom.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Do you want to go a little bit more in depth on your introduction?
Sure. I am not working currently, but I'm having a lot of fun traveling. I just came back from Honduras. Jacob gets to watch the dogs. I went to Aruba. I went to Wisconsin. Lots of places.
That's cool. What did you do before you retired?
Oh, I worked for my brother-in-law in a heating and air company. And obviously we supplied heating and air services to people who needed it. It was fun.
So what'd you do there?
Oh, I was the office manager. I took care of pretty much everything.
Okay. Give me an example of what people should do in the heating and air industry that would help them or benefit them in their house.
Oh, like the homeowner?
Yeah, sure. Anything.
I'll check your filters every month. If they're dirty, change them. That's probably the most important thing. And if it's like really, really hot out, only set your thermostat, like set it at a temperature to hold there, and then like pretty much keep it close to one temperature, because when you go way down and then way up, the system has to work really hard.
Okay, so like if it's 95 degrees outside, what temperature should I hold my AC to? Because I know some people do like 70 or 69 degrees, but like what, like during the day, say it's like 10 o'clock on the weekend, you're at home, you don't want it to be hot in your house, but you also don't want to kill your AC unit, so what should you do?
A heating and air system can usually only go about a 20-degree differential from the outside temperature. So if you want it at 70 in your house when it's 95 outside, you'll have to make sure you shut all your blinds so no sun shines in. Set it to 70 overnight, because that's when it will get closest to that temperature. And if your system works really well, it will keep the temperature all day. But then don't go in and out of the house a lot, because when you go out, you bring body heat back in.
Do you think body heat, or do you think like the fact that the door's been open for
both.
20
the door's been open
is more important?
Right, but you also bring in a lot of heat on your body because you're usually sweating when you come in from a 95-degree day.
Okay.
And so, so it's best not to go in and out very much. But really, I know you think you're comfortable at 70, but if it's 95 outside, you'll be comfortable at 75.
So like, what do you so you think the lowest is 20 degrees? Anything below that, the system could like shut down or fail?
Yeah, usually it's 20-degree differential because in the air conditioning, because the system, I mean, it can keep up, but it will just keep working and working and not be very efficient.
Yeah. Well, will it break though? What do you think what do you think the breaking point is? If you set it at like, say like 65, it's like 95 degrees outside. So like 65, would it break the system, or to like 60, or what do you think the number would be?
It's a lot of factors, because what if your system's old and then it's running just like a car? If it's old and you keep just beating on it, running, it's just going to be like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Mm-hmm. But again, if you keep your filter clean, if you keep your house at 65, check your filter every 2 weeks, because in the air conditioning, the biggest thing that happens is the filter gets dirty, and then it takes dirt and causes a freezing on the coil. Okay. And then ice just builds up, just more and more and more. And the guy will come out, because you'll say have no air, and he'll come in and be like, well, you have to defrost this thing. And he can stand there with a blow dryer if you want to pay him by the hour to blow dry your system to get all the ice to melt. Or he'll just tell you to turn it off and I'll come back tomorrow. And then you'll just be without air for 24 hours, which will make you miserable.
That sounds about right. So do you think that the air filter is probably the most important part about the system then? Or what do you think the most important part about the air conditioning system, of the checks you need to do for it to not shut down or break during the middle of a bad summer heat?
Oh, there's a lot of things. There's I can't name them all, but there's like a 17-point check. You got to check the Freon charge, because you don't want any leaks in the line. Because if you're down a little bit on Freon, that will also cause the coil to freeze, because it will be trying to make the cold air, and then it won't be able to do that. And so it will start to freeze again. Then you'll get all this ice build up. And when the guy comes in and says it's down on Freon, normally it's a closed system. So the Freon runs through the system. And, but sometimes, the pipes, they get old. Like if it's rubbing on something, it will wear down and then there'll be a hole somewhere, which you don't want. So when they come out, they usually wash it down with your hose. And if you don't have a hose, tell them, because they'll bring water thing to wash it down with. And then they check the capacitors. That's a really common thing that happens. A capacitor's kind of like a battery, we'll say. And if it's, using it too many times, it just, like any other battery, it runs out and then it will not literally explode, but you can see the top will not be flat. So the inside of the capacitor's not good, and then it won't run. There's kits, though, that help with avoiding that. They're called hard start kits, and if you put that on there, it just helps the electric to flow through more. Instead of pulling down on your electric when your air conditioner, this thing makes it more smooth of a transition, and then it's not so hard on your system.
Okay. And what's Freon for those people who don't know?
Oh, Freon is a gas. It's a liquid and a gas, depending on what part of the system it's in, and it runs through from the unit outside to the inside coil, and it makes cold. And then the furnace fan blows across the coil with the cold air and puts that cold air in your house. And then the Freon then is warm, so now it goes back outside, and then the fan outside on the air conditioner blows the hot air out, which is why if you stand above your air conditioner, a lot of times it's blowing hot air up at you. Right, and so that's how it creates the cold air, because then it sends the cold Freon back inside.
Right.
So you use your furnace all year. Well, the fan of the furnace you use all year.
Okay.
For heating and air, just the fan goes.
Okay, sounds good. And on the opposite side,
the heating.
What is the highest temperature you should go with heating when it's freezing outside? Say it's a freezing negative 10 degrees outside for someone in Minnesota and they need to heat up their house. It's what's the minimum they should put on and throw a couple jackets on versus what can actually the system handle? Can it handle the 77 degrees if someone is that insane to?
It couldn't handle 77. Again, there's another factor, heating and air. If your windows, if you have really bad windows that leak a lot of air, or doors, your house will never keep a temperature you want without using a lot of energy. Because, just like if you had a window open and it was cold outside, all the cold air is going to come in, and then you'll try to heat the same room. But a furnace can, if it's 10 below outside and windy, a furnace will probably keep 75 to 78 degrees. Again, you'll be working the system really hard if you keep it running when it's super cold outside. And again, the factors of, if, say, you live off the backside of your house is super windy, you can always shut the blinds, because then it will kind of seal the window in a way from the cold air coming in. But some people don't like their blinds shut, so they just have to deal with it. But the other thing is, in the wintertime, you want humidity in your house, 55, no, that's wrong. In the winter, you want your humidity between 35 and 45%. And that helps the house feel warmer. And so if you have a humidifier on your system, it will help your house feel warmer. But if you have too much humidity, you'll get ice on the windows, and that's not good. So you want to set your house to 35 to 45% humidity. In the summer, if you have a dehumidifier, it takes the humidity out of the air, and then the house feels cooler. So you can set your house to, say, 75, but if you have no humidity, it will be really cold inside. Feel cold.
Yeah.
The feel temperature will
So do you think that having it attached to the system, or do you think separate, plug-in-the-wall humidifiers or dehumidifiers are better? Which one do you think would be better for each system?
The problem with plug-in-the-wall ones is a lot of times they short out. People forget to empty the water, or they set it and then they leave the house and the things just keep running and running, and so they burn out. In the industry, there's been a lot of house fires because of humidifiers that plug into the wall. Now, if you have a cold or something and you want extra humidity, that's fine. But for everyday use, I would just get a humidifier that's attached to the furnace, because then the technician will attach it to the furnace. It will run when the fan's on, and so blow the humidity in the air, but it will also attach to the drain that the furnace uses, and you won't ever have to worry about emptying any,
excess liquid or whatever
Yeah.
it pulls out from the air.
But again, at the beginning of the season, you should change the pad. There's a pad in the humidifier that the water runs through, and you should change that. And then at the end of the season, if you remember, you turn off the humidifier and then you take the pad out because you want everything to dry out. If you leave the wet pad in there all summer, it will create mold, and then the
Is
next.
that similar to the air filter then, of like just making sure it has to be checked and then
Well, the
you
air
have to swap
filter.
it out?
Yeah, the air filter is dry air, though it doesn't. You don't want any water coming through the air filter.
Right, I'm
Humidifier constantly runs water through, so if you leave water sitting in there, it will start to get moldy in there, and then you're just putting moldy water in your house, which is gross.
Yeah, that sounds like a problem. I mean, it sounds like a health problem also if you
Well, then you'll
put
notice,
moldy air in.
right? You'll get more colds, and your nose will be stuffy, and but yeah. So, and the dehumidifier, those are portable things. There is a dehumidifier that a whole house one that they can attach in your ductwork, which is it's expensive, but it's like the best system because then it
What's
takes
expensive?
the unit, the
Like
dehumidifier.
I'm saying, like what is
Oh,
expensive?
it's
Like what kind of price
probably
are we looking at?
I'll say 2,000 to 2,500 to put this unit in your house. But it connects to the ductwork, and then it runs with your furnace again, so you're not turning it on and off. And then it takes all the air in your house and pulls the moisture out. And then again, you can set it up to the drain with the furnace. So it's like basically maintenance free. I mean, when you have your furnace checked, you should have the dehumidifier checked to make sure everything's working right because it's just been used all summer. But I don't know. For me, I like to not have to constantly check things.
Yeah, being lazy is a commodity. that's we love.
We love.
We love
do.
being lazy, especially when it comes to things that impact your house like this.
Yes.
What is probably the best brand to go with if you had to say someone's getting a brand new house or buying a brand new house, you have to install this? What would it be?
For furnace and air?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I really like the train system.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of Texas, and they work really hard to meet all the industry standards, keep up with all the rules and regulations. They test their products. I mean, it does say it's hard to stop a train, and that's really true. But in the industry, Carrier has been coming up too and moving up. But between the two, I mean, even Consumer Reports usually train rates better.
Okay.
But they have options. So if you want to spend all your money on a heating and air system, you can buy this really fancy furnace and air with things you don't even really need, but you can just have it all. Or you can just get the basic furnace. And I would get a variable speed furnace no matter what because it's just more efficient in your house. But so there's price range from the bottom to the top.
Right. Of just
on
different
anything.
models and
Yeah. And by variable speed furnace, what I mean is, so when the furnace turns on, it's in high mode, and the blower is in high, and it blows heat in your house.
Yeah.
But then when it's resting and not creating heat, the fan is like a little nightlight, and it just moves the air around, so it stays the same temperature pretty much in your house.
It's kind of like a souped up car with all the features, including the kickback trunk, versus a car that kind of has literally nothing to it but the bare bones and then the engine itself. Cool. And then last question for you. Should you turn your furnace or AC off during the day? Should you not? And what kind of temperature range should you change it to during the day to quote unquote save money? And do you save money if you do that?
So in summer, I was using the air. I'm not really sure why you'd ever turn it off. I mean, unless you were going to open the windows. But once you turn it on and you're committed to using it for a few days, remember, first when you turn it on, it has to pull all the humidity out of your house. So say your house is 78, you want it to be 75. The first thing it has to do is pull the water out of your house. So that will take a little while before you see the temperature drop. And then the temperature will start to drop. If it's like 80 outside and you're setting it to 75, then you could do a schedule where, so overnight, you want it to be 72, we'll say, a little cooler. So then it could be 72, and then at 8 in the morning, it can go to 75. Say you leave at 10, then you can set it back down, but an hour before you get home, you could have it go back up.
Okay. So like an hour before you get home is when you want to schedule.
If you're doing a 5-degree difference, like if it's 95 outside and you don't set it for 80 and then expect it to be 70 at 4 in the afternoon, that's never going to happen.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you would want to give it an hour to pull all the humidity out and then drop the temperature to what you would want it to be if it's within 5 degrees.
Yeah.
And then that's not turning the system off. That's just saying,
rest
hey,
for a while.
Yeah. Well, if it's 80 degrees outside and you want it to be 72, we'll say we'll let it run at 77 or 78, because then it'll just kind of not really shut off, but it won't work as hard. And then you'll save energy. Will you save energy if you do that?
You normally save energy with the program.
Okay.
I only say normally because if you're someone who insists that it be 70 always, and it's 95 outside, you just have to keep your system on hold at 70, because then it will keep the temperature in, which is a little bit unrealistic when it's 95 outside, but it will keep the temperature.
Yeah, well, when it gets to the fall areas and stuff, and when it gets around reasonable temperatures, around what you like to live in with the house, it's obviously going to be a little bit different and more savings, but cool. That's cool. Thanks for teaching me. Hopefully we'll have you back on. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Good time. And that's it.